Hello, everyone. This is Greg Alexander, and welcome to the SBI Podcast. Our guest today is Nick Mehta, the CEO of software company Gainsight, the global leader in the customer success category. Many CEOs are moving their revenue models to recurring revenue, as this type of revenue creates more enterprise value than transactional revenue. As a result, CEOs have become strategically focused on revenue retention, customer renewal rates, and customer lifetime value. Nick literally wrote the book on customer success, and with his company, Gainsight, created the category. If generating more revenue that is recurring is on your strategic priority list, this show is for you. Hope you enjoy it.
From SBI's Executive Briefing Center in Dallas, Texas, the most watched and listened to content in B2B sales and marketing, it's the SBI Podcast with your host, Greg Alexander.
Welcome to the SBI Podcast, a weekly show dedicated to helping you make your number by getting your peers to share with you how they are making theirs. Today, we're going to demonstrate how to generate more recurring revenue by implementing a customer success program. So why this topic? Business models are changing from transaction-based revenue models to subscription-based revenue models. And companies are dependent on recurring revenue, and therefore they must pay special attention to customer renewal rates, revenue retention, and customer lifetime value. As a result, reactive customer service approaches built to lower the cost to serve are being replaced with proactive customer success approaches built to increase the revenue per customer. When your customer becomes more successful as a result of using your product, they buy more of it. And when your customer is unaware of how you have contributed to their success, they attrit. My name's Greg Alexander. I'm the CEO of SBI, and I am your host today. And joining me in the studio is my co-host, Melissa Valdez. And Melissa is here to point you to resources to advance you along the way of making your number. Melissa, welcome.
Thank you, Greg, and welcome to our listeners.
All right. Helping Melissa and I today with our demonstration is the executive in this field. His name is Nick Mehta, and the Chief Executive Officer of Gainsight. So Nick, welcome to the show, and please introduce yourself to the audience.
Greg, thanks so much for having me here. Well, I'm super excited to be here, and as you mentioned, I'm really passionate about helping companies change the way they think about growth, and not just think about growth from new customers, but actually growth from all the existing great customers that they have, and that's what customer success is all about.
And tell me about Gainsight. So Who are you, where you're from, how long you've been around?
Sure, totally. So at Gainsight, our passion and our mission is to help businesses do a better job driving success for their clients, and in the process, drive more predictable growth for their business. We've been in business about 5 years. We work with about half of publicly traded cloud companies, 3/4 of the world's largest software companies, a huge chunk of large Fortune 500 companies, all make more money from their customers. And we've kind of a venture-backed company, raised about $150 million in funding, and have some really great companies that we partner with.
Yeah, and as you know, many of our clients are customers of yours as well, so I can speak firsthand of the quality of your product and the quality of your team.
Thank you very much, yeah.
All right, so let's start with the definition. So there's a whole bunch of people in our audience that have no idea what customer success is. So give me your definition.
Well, I'll start with the fact that I think my parents for a long time also had no idea what customer success is. So and I'll tie it back to that a little bit, because it's a funny little anecdote. My dad was actually an executive at a company you may remember, both of us are old enough probably to remember, called Digital Equipment Corporation.
I do, definitely.
Right, which he was an exec there, and then he was CEO of some companies in the 80s and 90s. And when I was growing up as a kid, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as you know, and growing up as a kid, 8 years old, I remember my dad saying, if you go into business, the only thing that matters is sales, because once you get that customer, they're with you for life. They can't leave. Yeah. And that mindset is definitely how businesses grew for a long time, and great businesses were formed on that mindset. But I think what all of us have figured out is that the world has changed dramatically. Customers have so much more power than they've ever had. They're paying you as they go. They're paying you on subscription. They're paying you per transaction. They've got all kinds of ways to get out of their contract. And so now they demand that you as a vendor drive success proactively for them, and that you make sure they're getting the value that they need. You're not just reactively supporting them, you're proactively owning the outcome. Now, the great news for vendors in customer success is if you do that, you're going to grow more from your customers. They're going to spend more with you, going to stay with you longer, they're going to be better advocates. So customer success is all about aligning your customer's success with your business success and driving predictable growth.
Okay, very good. I mean, I love the concept because everybody wins in that concept.
That's right, yeah.
If your customer becomes more successful, you become more successful, everybody wins.
It's not adversarial, is exactly right, yeah.
All right, what types of businesses should be investing in customer success?
Well, it's funny, to some extent, it's easy to think about the ones that shouldn't. So if you sell a customer once and you're never gonna get anything from them ever again, then you probably don't need customer success. So funeral home industry, probably not a fit for Gainsight, so that's a one and done deal. But you think about almost any other business, whether you've got a subscription business where you want to get them to stay with you, whether your business is, like you used to work in the storage industry, a land and expand business, you sell one thing and you want them to get them to buy more, whether you get paid based on the number of transactions through the system, right? Whether that customer is actually, your new customers come from advocacy from your existing customers. If your customer is helping drive more revenue from you in the future, customer success is going to matter to you.
Interesting. That's a broader answer than I thought. I think of customer success, particularly in the software business, as we went from this on-prem model to this cloud model. But it's much broader than that. You just gave us several examples that are outside of the.
That's exactly right. On-prem to cloud, which is definitely where people start thinking about this, the SaaS world, as some people talk about, is just the canary in the coal mine. That's just like one example of customer-empowered businesses where the customer has choice, has power, and you've got to own the outcome. So we think that's just the beginning of the story.
Yeah. So what's the value that customer success promises to create? And the reason why I ask you is that you're a CEO. There's a lot of CEOs watching and listening right now. They might read this transcript, and they might be wondering, should I invest? Should I not invest? So, what is the value that it creates?
Yeah, fundamentally, if you're a sales leader or CEO on this watching this program, for me, it's really fundamentally one thing. It's predictable, efficient growth. So obviously for the customer, your clients, driving their outcomes and success, but for you, it's all about the fact that how do you get to a predictable and efficient business model? And I think you know very well that fundamentally it's 5 to 10 times cheaper to keep and grow an existing customer than it is to get a new one. In addition, with all this new data you've got about your customers, you shouldn't be blind about them. You should know where that next dollar of revenue is coming from your existing customers. And so it's more predictable, it's more efficient, you'll grow in a more cost-effective way.
Yep. Predictable, efficient growth. That's the value.
That's right.
And pretty much everybody
And actually,
wants that.
I wanted to say that, but I'm glad you asked, because some people think of this and they say, oh, it's about customer satisfaction, about customer happiness. And obviously those are means to an end, those are important. But the end is about predictable, efficient growth. This isn't just another customer support initiative. This is something that should be core part of your revenue model.
Yeah, very good. All right, it's probably a good time for a break. Melissa, I think you've got some things you want to share with the audience. Is that correct?
I do. Those of you listening may have just gotten your revenue target for the year and you're wondering how you're going to make that number. Well, we have built a brand new tool for you to use that allows you to evaluate the probability of you making your number. That's our brand promise here at SBI, right? So it's an amazing new tool. It is a web-based self-assessment where you can benchmark your go-to-market strategy against emerging best practices of market leaders. And it is available. I'm ready. Greg, are you ready? I'm going to say the whole thing. I'm going to spell it out for everybody this time. It's www.salesbenchmarkindex.com/revenue-growth-diagnostic. Say that 5 times fast. Here's a little tip. You can actually Google SBI Revenue Growth Diagnostic and it will pop right up for you. Spend a few minutes taking this diagnostic and see how you measure up. Back to you.
Yeah, a little known fact. So we've published a lot of tools over the 11 years we've been in business. So that tool got released and in the first hour got downloaded 4,000 times.
4,000 times,
Yeah.
see.
So, and I think the beauty of it is it only takes 15 minutes and it produces quite a bit. So I encourage everybody in the audience to check it out. All right, let's jump back into the questions. All right, so how does customer success lower the cost to serve a customer?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you think of customer success, there's upside and there's reducing downside, and you're totally right. Think about the cost to serve a customer in all these different dimensions. All that lost time and effort in onboarding a customer where the expectations weren't set properly, all the time in trying to save a customer that went so far down the path that was about to cancel. I think both of us have been in that situation before, right? All the escalations you deal with. And you think about if you get more proactive, if you understand that client's desired outcomes, you understand where they are right now, it's better for everyone. They're happier, you're happier, and both of you are wasting less time chasing each other.
Yeah. So it is a true statement that customer success equals lower cost to serve.
Yeah, it's fundamentally customer success is lower cost to serve and more predictable growth. So you kind of win on both sides.
So my next question is around lifetime value. So customer success, how does it increase the lifetime value of each customer?
Customer success increases lifetime value in 3 fundamental ways. So number one, I think the most obvious is you get those customers to get towards their outcomes faster so they stay with you longer, right? And I think in the new business models, this is a constant process. They're always saying, what have you done for me lately? And if you're driving their outcomes and letting them know about it, they're gonna stay with you. Number two, if they're getting to the outcomes they want, they're gonna spend more money with you. They're gonna upsell, they're gonna cross-sell. And then number three, obviously the biggest impact is they're gonna become advocates. They're gonna tell their friends, and they're gonna help you get new clients. So fundamentally, it helps in 3 dimensions in lifetime value.
Yep. You mentioned the word outcome a few times in that answer. So, and I don't hear that word as much as I would like to hear it. So in your world, in the context of that explanation, what does that word mean, outcome?
Yeah, the word outcome is really interesting. An analogy I didn't create, somebody created a long time ago, was the idea that people don't buy hammers and nails, they buy holes, right? So they're looking for the outcome. They don't care about your software product, your professional services, your device. They care about the thing that it enables because they care about their business. You care about your business, I care about mine. And so your clients care about the thing they're gonna get from your product or service. And frankly, if you're not gonna deliver it, there's 100 other choices, right? And so we believe the world is moving to outcomes. And what's happening is clients are getting business models where they're paying you based on outcomes. Either they're paying you as they go, so they can leave you if they're not getting the outcome, or in some cases, they're paying you literally for the outcome. I think GE's publicly talked about the fact that their customers are starting to pay them based on efficiency gains and uptime and things like that. So we think the world is moving to outcomes.
Right. And by making the customer more successful earlier through customer success, then you're ensuring that they get to the outcome, and the customer's customer, I guess, in that terminology, become more successful. And again, another example how everybody wins.
That's exactly right. And customer success is fundamental to getting them to the outcomes and getting the outcomes with a great experience. That's the way we think about it. Customer success is outcomes plus experience together.
Okay. All right, so right about now, there's people listening. Maybe they're learning about customer success for the first time, or maybe they've just started down the road. And they're saying, all sounds great. How do I fund a customer success department? So what advice would you have there?
Yeah, it's a great question. We deal with this a lot with small companies, mid-sized, large. Where do the dollars come from this? So there's fundamentally a few things I think I encourage people to think about. So number one, you're probably already managing these customers in a less efficient way. The sales team's dealing with them, account managers are dealing with them, you're calling them all the time to check in.
Customer service.
Customer service. How do you use data and process to get more proactive so you're actually helping them when they need to be helped proactively? So number one is you can fund this a lot just out of efficiency gains, getting smarter with the dollars you're spending. Number two, you can build a great business case simply based on the 3 revenue drivers I talked about: reducing your churn, improving your renewals, driving more upsell and expansion, and driving more advocacy. And we've helped clients really understand what's the quantitative value of that ROI that you've got. And then number 3, what I think is happening in general is people are saying, how do I make my overall revenue engine leaner? Maybe I want my sales team focused more on hunting, and so I'm gonna actually get them more focused and take some of those dollars where they were spending time, trying to upsell clients, not doing a great job of it, getting some of those dollars back and reinvesting them in customer success, and get the sales team focused on what they're really great at. So I see large clients often funding this by rationalizing the whole sales strategy in general.
Right. So based on that answer, is it safe to say, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that investing in a customer success department, which means people, process, technology, et cetera, it's a self-funding initiative?
Customer success definitely pays for itself. There's no doubt about it. We actually, our typical client that works with Gainsight, and if you work with Gainsight, you're trying to implement a best practice customer success methodology. They're actually driving 5 points of net revenue growth higher than their direct peers in the public markets. We actually did a benchmarking study, yeah. We actually did another study where going from the least sophisticated to most sophisticated, we kind of have benchmarked clients on sophistication of customer success, drives 19 points of revenue expansion. So this stuff totally pays for itself. I mean, you're talking about like literally 21 payback, 30-to-1 payback, that kind of range.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, let's take another break. I think Melissa has another resource you want to share with the audience. Is that true?
Yes, I'm very excited about this one. And if you could benefit from any of Nick's emerging best practices in customer success today, consider enlisting the help of one of our SBI team of experts with an interactive workshop. We want you to get a feel of what's covered in these workshops. So if you will go to sbi.tips/2018 workbook, you will see this beautiful, brand new 2018 How to Make Your Number workbook. It's filled with tools, tips, exercises, and methodologies, and it will give you an idea of what we'll cover in these workshops. And we had a great session today with Nick and his team, so thank you for being here in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, it's great. It's hot off the presses. 450 pages of goodness.
Wow.
Yep. So there's also an online version of it.
I'm gonna read that on the plane flight home. That's good stuff.
Yeah. All right, so last segment, I got 3 more questions for you, okay? So what's the profile of the leader of the customer success department?
It's a great question, because customer success is a new thing for a lot of companies, and you're trying to figure out where does that person come from. A simplistic rule of thumb, it's a combination of skills. Because fundamentally what we're talking about is you've got your service and support organization, you got your sales organization, and this is a little bit in between those two. You got to understand the empathy and connection of a service and support org, but you also want to align to revenue. So I've seen people coming out of both worlds. I see some CS leaders coming out of running professional services or running some part of support. I see other ones coming out of account management or renewals and trying to up-level what they've done, and customer success sits fundamentally between those two. No matter who you are, it's inherently a cross-functional job. That's why I think it's an exciting job, because you're linking together so many things, the product, services, sales. So you got to be somebody who's excited about cross-functional initiatives.
Yep. Okay, so a new role has to be somebody who can work cross-functionally, and the natural path is either from the support organization or the sales organization.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. And who does this person report to?
Yeah, so we see fundamentally 3 profiles. So in some companies, the customer success leader is getting elevated to be kind of the chief customer officer and literally reporting directly to the CEO. And so we see that often in younger companies and increasingly a little bit in larger companies. If not, then they typically report to either the head of services/support or the head of sales, right? And it's a little bit based on what type of business you are. If you're a higher touch, more service-intensive business, this might fit into the services group in general. If you're a more transactional business with a lot of volume, you might fit into the sales organization.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I've been in this conversation with the debate. Is this person, is it strategic enough where it should be a direct report to the CEO, or do you think the CEO should delegate it to one of his functional leaders?
I'm seeing more and more CEOs make it a direct report. It's interesting. We've seen CEOs in general take more interest in this area than ever, because I think they're just seeing, look, the biggest asset their company has is their customers, and who's on that? You've got people on sales, you've got people on finance, who's on that? And if you care about your customers, you consider having it report to you.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, last question. So how do you measure this person, and how should this person be compensated?
Yeah, great question. So when I think about measurement of this role, I think of leading and lagging indicators. So the lagging indicators to start are the simple ones, right? What's your retention rate in your base? That's different ways to calculate that. What's your expansion rate? Especially how many leads have you sent to sales for expansion and upsell, which is a good one. How many advocates have you created? Those are the lagging indicators. That's the outcomes, right? And then we also think about the leading indicators. So how are you doing in getting your clients to adopt your product or service? You can measure something we talk about called a customer health score to measure their holistic proactive health. You might measure their net promoter score, which is sort of their likelihood to recommend you. You might look at other early indicators of success. Maybe have they achieved the outcomes with their clients that they've desired, things like that. So think of lagging indicators, which are more financial, and leading indicators, which are the things you operate on every day.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of pay, do you just tie them to those goals? Is it a salaried position, a leveraged position?
Yeah, it's leveraged. It's leveraged typically less than a CRO head of sales. Okay. It's a little bit longer term because the reality is when you do customer success activities, they help you now, but they also help you a year from now. And so you don't want somebody to be too narrow-minded to just think of what's happening in the quarter. But at the same time, you want them to have some incentive to really make an impact, and I think they will.
Okay, very good. Well, listen, thanks for being on the show. You made a big contribution to kind of our body of knowledge. I know you live and breathe this every day, but it's still a new thing for many folks. And I read your book, you lead the company in the space, you're kind of the thought leader in the space. So I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing what you've learned so far on this topic. And I hope you can come back at some point in the future. And thanks again for being on the show, all right?
Thanks for having me, Greg. Really great conversation. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, I want to thank the SBI audience for tuning in. Thank you for your continued support. The numbers for the show continue to be really good. I trust you got a great deal out of today's show, and I think Melissa has one more thing for you before you go. Is that right, Melissa?
Yes, it is. Well, thank you again, Nick, for being on the show, and thank you to our audience and our listeners for spending your time with us today. We don't want you to miss out on future content, however, so go to salesbenchmarkindex.com/register and sign up for the topics you want and receive the content when you want to receive it.
All right.
That's all for today.
Okay, that's it for today. As always, until next time, I wish you good luck as you try and make your number.